Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. Actually, we now have to call it, I think legally, we have to call it the unofficial Game of Thrones podcast because HBO has their official Game of Thrones podcast. I don't know if you know this, Preston, but
You briefly mentioned it to me, but I was like, they didn't even call it like House of the Dragon. They just went straight for the old Game of Thrones.
yeah, I guess so. And did I mention it to you? I so fucking forgot. I keep forgetting that I mentioned stuff to you. But no, the unofficial Game of Thrones podcast. I'm your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again, as always, by Prestorius Jacobs, and we're here for House of the Dragon. What are you signed for?
I just finished. Well, it I don't know. I feel like no matter what I say, people are going to be angry. Like I just don't know
Whoa!
what.
How could you say that? Because based off what I see, every book fan should be content. Every single book fan should be satisfied as though they had a hefty meal.
Are you talking about like all the fan service shit in there?
It's a lot of fan service here,
A lot of
but
fan service.
we'll get to that. As
But
always, guys, we're available on
yeah,
SoundCloud, iTunes, all that good stuff. So consider checking us out on those platforms. And if you do, please leave us a review. It'll help out a lot. And of course, leave your comments down below. We might cover them in the next episode. But no, we're back. It's Game of
we're
Thrones
back.
season.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fucking
Um,
back. Why are you so unhappy? Come on, this is good stuff.
so look, it was an intense episode, and I'm talking about that middle. I would say that the episode. I mean, okay, the episode is pretty slow to start, and it ends like not that exciting either. Okay, but that middle um it's so intense that I just felt exhausted after that scene in the middle. You know what I'm talking about?
The birthing scene?
Yeah. Like like
Yeah.
that scene, I mean, bravo. It was just that was intense. That was really intense. That was just like, whoa. You definitely made me feel something with that. Like, oh my gosh.
I would argue it made me feel a little uncomfortable because she starts panicking.
Oh yeah.
Like she
That's what I'm
like
talking about. I'm
Jesus
I'm not
Christ.
I'm not talking about like the soap opera, because they in soap operas and stuff they give everybody these Sophie's Choice kind of situations, but I'm talking about the actress who was playing Emma Aaron, and how she portrayed that, and oh my god, like that scene by itself. I can't say the episode is bad just because that scene by itself was such a strong punch to my gut that I was like, oh gosh. And so after that, I was just the rest of the episode I was barely paying attention because it was just so, like, that drained me so much. And it's funny because there's a whole bunch of random violence in the episode, just stupid random violence where you're like, come on, like how many people like had their heads bashed in at that joust like in a row, and I was like,
Right.
like come on, like who would allow that to happen? Like, we already think like Sir Hugh dying in the hands tourney and them just kind of going on with it already was a bit much for me. I was like, they wouldn't even like pause for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe like call it a day. They just keep going. But the fact that like three different people, these are like highborn people, right? Get their
This
heads
is this is
bashed
this is what
in.
I was thinking the entire time. Like there are like great houses. One of the guys that gets his head literally bashed in has a House Stark emblem on his breastplate. So that's
Yeah,
either like because House Starks, they don't like House Stark. They're Northmen. Northmen don't
yeah,
have knights. So this
right.
is a guy who like either is representing House Stark in some fashion, maybe a household guard, or maybe like a sworn sword.
Well,
Sure,
at least in the books, we did have Jory, like,
Jorah.
go,
Oh,
no,
Jory.
Jory, participate in the hands tourney, despite the fact that he wasn't a knight,
Yeah, but
So
wasn't he a part of Ned's household guard?
he was, and Roderick is a knight, so maybe he, felt like he was good enough to be in the tourney or whatever, but um you know, you don't necessarily 100% have to be a knight in order to participate in every tourney. Like, I think Thoros of Myr participates in these tourneys, and he's not a knight, right? So, um, so it's you know, the assumption is that they're all knights, but they, you know, they could just be like random dudes who are into this stuff too, right?
Still, though, like a lot of highborn guys and a lot of lords risking some of their family
Right.
members for
It's a ridiculous thing
glory.
because it's all for funsies, right? Like, oh, would you like to go in this incredibly dangerous tourney where like you're probably going to break your fingers or hand and possibly die, and it's all for funsies. It's quite crazy. I mean, I understand that these things, you know, have some sort of historical um, uh, you know, precedent to them in real life, but you know, I just don't know if really crowds would just be like, oh, and then like somebody dies and then they go on. In fact, I think so I know with actual like Roman history, uh, you know, we hear about these gladiator fights, and you know, in movies and stuff, we think all of these gladiators are to the death and such, and it turns out no, in actual Roman history, like the gladiators weren't actually killing each other. Like if you did that, you'd run out of people to fight, you know, pretty quick. But so just like three people dying like all at once, like, and everybody just being like, oh, on with the next tilt. Like, I'm like, come on. Like, you
It's
know,
supposed to be very like hyperbolic. It's supposed to be
right.
just exaggerated. While Emma Aaron's baby is she's trying to give birth to her child,
Yeah.
while life is trying to come in, we have an exaggerated moment of death all over the place. I agree with you. It's silly and ridiculous, though. It's Game of Thrones. Like
Right.
even in the
It's
first couple of
supposed to be
seasons,
that, right? You're not,
yeah.
you know, in history, we didn't really have incredible brothels with supermodels all fucking each other like this. You know, like I get that it's like fictionalized, right? But that kind of stuff where it was just like, okay, like the scene of the testicles on the stump and stuff like that, where I was just like, oh god, this is just gore for the sake of gore. Like
That's
this
what
is
that was.
stupid.
That was the guy's balls. I could not.
I think it was just
Hold
testicles on
on.
the. I think he killed the he cut the raper off, and then they showed something on the stool on the stump, and I think those were his balls.
Well, let's be honest here for a minute here. Like HBO didn't give us an early review copy. The episode fucking leaked. And maybe because the episode leaked, I'm assuming this might be review copies that leaked
Yeah.
because I don't know about you, but god damn, the fucking color was off the entire time. It felt like
Hmm.
Zack Snyder had something to do with this.
Well,
Um,
we'll find out tomorrow when they do the release thing. So the version that Carmine and I watched like didn't have an intro.
mhm.
So we're not sure if like maybe the actual episode doesn't have an intro. Pilots often don't have intros, and then the intro will appear on the second episode. That happens a lot, but we'll see. Um, this might just be like, you know, a different copy we had, but
Well, the
um,
first scene of the episode, it opens up with the Great Council. I figured this is how they would open up the first episode. So we get that out of the way. You know, Viserys is chosen
yeah,
as the successor.
yeah, it was a super boring beginning. Um,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
hit me up. You're like the first 20 minutes you thought it was boring.
oh yeah, super boring. First of all, don't start shit with voiceovers and like text. Okay, it's like number one rule of like movies and shows. Like if I wanted to read a book, I'd read a fucking book. Okay, like get me in. Like had I done this beginning, like why go to the Great Council? Like start at least. I would have like how I would do it is I would start with like like a dream of the Long Night and the White Walkers, and then like Viserys like waking up, um, having experienced that dream. So we established some stakes, right?
Well,
Because
keep in mind, Viserys didn't experience that dream. That was Aegon the Conqueror.
you're right.
Viserys' dream is about.
He said it was passed down. Yeah, you're right. His dream was about the heir. Then I would
Mhm.
have changed that shit. I would have changed that shit, and I would have had him have some dreams about something exciting because we need some stakes here. Okay, there's no.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you because if you did that, it would be like a poem. It rhymes, you know, because
Yeah.
that's how Game of Thrones opened. But why show the White Walkers or even have an allusion to them if we're not going to introduce them in this series?
I mean, they did it in the end. I mean, the episode establishes the stakes at the end of the episode. At the very end of the episode, he establishes like, no, this succession is really important because of this fucking prophecy in these dreams. Okay, and that's how the episode ends. Like, and he does the whole promise me shit and all this fan service motherfucking stuff. Anyway, but you establish the stakes an hour in. Like why should I care about this succession situation? And it's like, oh, well, it's actually really important because of this, like, big prophecy. Establish that first. Like, don't give me this, like...
Good point.
Don't give me this, like, really boring voiceover of the Council of 101. And then after that, like, so that eats up, like, then we have these, like, long panning shots of, like, Rhaenyra flying, which go on and on and on. And then we establish like her friendship, and it's more panning shots of the city.
It's to reintroduce the audience back to the familiarity of King's Landing. Remember, I told you on Facebook how there's even that shot that we see in season 8 with Cersei, where she converted that courtyard area into a giant map of Westeros.
Sure, but what's the hook? Like, you got to start an episode with a hook. So they're saying, well, the hook is there was this Council of 101 that passed over Rhaenys. Really? That's your fucking hook? Like, that's what, like, compare that to the original Game of Thrones, right? Going through that wall and you being like, what the fuck is that wall? And then running into ice zombies in the forest. Like, and that's your before the credits thing. And this time it's Rhaenys is passed over for Viserys. That's the difference.
This is my problem with this series going forward. As much as I'm excited for it, and you on some level are as well. We're book readers, we're book fans. The people who really need to be won over are the casual viewers, because they outnumber us at like 1,000, 10,000 to 1.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
They're the ones. Like, them coming back and watching this for episode 2 and 3, they're the ones that decide if this gets another season. Because you and I we want other seasons, whether it's to enjoy or bitch and complain. Regardless, it's content for our channels. But the casual viewers are the ones that really decide this. And so what you're basically saying is, we're given a lot of information, but to book fans, it means something to us. To casuals, it's just random words and thrown at the screen.
Right. I mean, we're 10 minutes in before we meet Daemon. We're 10 minutes in before we meet an interesting character. They spend the first minutes like establishing Rhaenyra and Alicent's like friendship, which I just wouldn't have gone with that. Like, start with the dream. Start with Daemon. One of those two. Like, if my first hook is, what is this about? It's about fucking Daemon Targaryen, like this crazy character. Have it be Daemon Targaryen, like use that as the hook. Like, open up with like him doing the City Watch or in all of his like savagery at the City Watch. Do something, but I don't think that a good hook is starting the show out with like, hey, there was a succession crisis and this random woman was passed over for this random dude. That's not a hook. And then the next thing is friendship of Rhaenyra and Alicent, which goes on for a long time. Then we get Daemon, who's a little interesting, and then we go back to the friendship. The friendship goes on, and we're fucking 15 minutes in, and then we get to the Aemma Arryn, which when I first saw the Aemma Arryn scene, I was like, okay, this is dull, but it's so important now that I've seen the episode, considering I think that the entire episode hinges on that Aemma Arryn scene. So, Aemma is I mean, it's just all fucking well done. And then we get like this random savage brutality, and then the freaking like the watch scene or the small council scene, and some TNA, and then the tourney, and the tourney, and then I just kind of like that scene was overwhelming. So like the tourney and the birth is just overwhelming. So I don't know if I would have set it up like it at all, like this at all.
To be fair, Ryan Condal and Miguel Kakovich, whatever his name is, they have a much tougher job than I think Dave and Dan did, because Dave and Dan were handed like gold here because, like you said, Game of Thrones, the first thing we do read in the books, the prologue, isn't it the
right. It's built in the same way, and let's be honest, the source material is weak. Like, this is weak source material.
It is.
So I admit that, like, Ryan Condal is doing what he can. And what did somebody say that, like, George insisted that the Council of 101 be there? No, it was the Jaehaerys thing, right? Because you know how you said that George
Jaehaerys the second.
Right, but somebody said, like, maybe there's misunderstanding, like, with the writers, and I mean the news article writer, the reporter, and that really he meant Jaehaerys the first. And so then Ryan Condal's hands were bound because he had to include the Council of 101.
Well, why the fuck does anyone let George dictate anything? Did we all forget?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like his amazing work on Beauty and the Beast, which got canceled after 2 seasons. Like, why are we letting George R.R. Martin write? The motherfucker hasn't even written anything in 10 years. Why are we letting him dictate anything? But whatever.
I don't know. I think I don't know. I just would have structured this differently. You have this incredible scene, and how do you get there? I don't know. I mean, I understand that we needed Rhaenyra time, considering that she's the freaking, like, her and Daemon are the main characters. So you need that. But I feel like I got to know Corlys Velaryon better than Rhaenyra.
Corlys Velaryon is a guy who clearly, from just watching him here, is a guy who clearly is just, he does not want to be involved in any of this crap. He wants as much drama, he wants as little drama as possible between the succession shit, so he can focus on the real bullshit, which is the Triarchy and the Stepstones. That's the.
I mean, what a great. By the way, the guy doing Corlys Velaryon, like, what a fantastic actor. The fact that he just fucking owns the room. He fucking owns the room in these scenes. I mean, he has so few lines, but he just, like, he pulls it off really well. So
to be fair, bravo. Everybody is I've had no complaints with any of the actors. Damon's good. Patty Constantine, who plays Viserys, he's good. When he said, "I've done nothing but defend you," like, I felt that, like, that was pretty great. Everyone's, like, jerking off Millie Alcock, the girl who plays young Rhaenyra. She's okay.
She's fine. You
were saying to me, like, what's her personality? She's Arya. She's tomboy Arya.
I guess so.
And Alicent is a little bit of Sansa, just a tad. Otto is like a Diet Coke Tywin. Viserys in Fire and Blood, you've said it in a previous podcast, he's jovial, he likes to have a good time, but when he says something, he means it. I think they kind of captured that.
He's supposed to be a Robert clone, but, like, here he definitely, like, starts off, like, he doesn't have the same sort of exhaustion / rage that he's barely keeping down, like that they pulled off in Game of Thrones. Here he seems just so kindly and nice that, and then it's building. It builds towards the end where he finally, like, is angry at his brother. But you don't instantly get his personality like you did with the actor that played Robert. But considering he's supposed to be essentially Robert, but it was fine. All the actors are great. Like, I don't have any complaints about any of the actors. I just think that the structuring of when you introduce characters and everything was just kind of done wrong. The ordering of everything. But man,
it was a. like I told you, I've said this already to a lot of people, and I'll say I think I told you. If not, I'll say it again. I didn't think it was a great pilot like Game of Thrones, the first episode of Game of Thrones, which we recently did on a rewatch. I didn't think it was like the most amazing thing. There was no like insane cliffhanger that made me go, "Whoa, I gotta watch the next episode." Do I want to watch the next episode? Yes, I do.
Yeah,
but I'm not like eagerly awaiting it. I'm like, okay, I'm okay, completely okay waiting for next week. But was it a good episode? You can make arguments that it was good. It was.
Decent.
What
this episode felt? You know what the tone this episode felt like? It felt like a season finale, right? Rather than an episode where you go, oh, I got to see the next thing, right? Like it's a period of change, right? Like Rhaenyra is now heir, and Daemon flies off on his dragon, and there's this new. Like everything is like next season, everything's going to be different, except it's next episode. Like
that could be I can see why you're saying that's like a weird thing, but that's also could be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure because between episodes we have these huge time jumps, so I guess maybe you need to do that every time.
We'll see. We didn't get for the leak copy that we got. There was like no next time on House of there was nothing like that. So I don't know. I don't know when they're gonna do the time jump. Maybe episode 3. I'm assuming episode 2. There's still more stuff in episode 2 that we have to see because there's that moment where
episode 2 is supposed to be the hunt. It's supposed to be the great this all it's a show only created thing about like this seeing a white stag that they have to like hunt for or something.
Yeah. Anybody here who's played Crusader Kings? Remember the White Stag? That's actually an event in Crusader Kings. And for the Game of Thrones mod, the White Stag. Okay, I did not. I actually did not know. Where'd you learn that? I didn't know that.
From DD.
Who?
Dragon Demand.
Oh, that motherfucker. I was debating, should I send him this link to this fucking episode? Is he gonna like rat me out to fucking HBO? Like, but no, he's cool. He's chill. I gave it to him. He's a nice boy. By the way, he makes some very good points. Because I didn't realize this until he brought it up. Let me go to it real quick. So we might be going a bit ahead, maybe just a tad, in talking about the prophecy again from Aegon, A Song of Ice and Fire, which I kind of want to make fun of that real quick. But
you're a little too on the nose. Yeah,
it reminds me of that Family Guy skit where Peter loves it when movies. when
use the titular phrase.
Use like the title of the movie.
Cinema Sins like always does the roll credits, right? Like we need to go back to the future. Roll credits, like, yeah.
I have to solve this crisis the only way I know how, as Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Oh, that's why. Okay. But, no, Dragon Demands made a very good point to me privately in regards to the Aegon the Conqueror a prophecy here that they're including, because George has alluded to it in previous interviews. And what he said to me privately here makes a lot of sense. He says... about George, he revealed in passing that there was no time limit on the prophecy, just Aegon the Conqueror had a prophetic dream that the White Walkers would return someday. And the problem is that they never knew that it was a full 300, 200 years later. He says every king who knew of this in the first Targaryen century thought it was coming either in their own lifetime or at the most their immediate son's lifetime. And this affected their decision accordingly. Compare this to what they say about the very early Christians. Like in the first generation after Jesus lived, they genuinely thought that the second coming was imminent, either in their own lifetime or at least soon. Only gradually did this shift to be understood as at the end of time, and so on and so forth. So that makes a lot of sense.
I don't even know if that's understood. When you meet a lot of really fundamentalist Christians, like a lot of them are constantly thinking that Judgment Day is coming. Oh yeah,
right. But he's talking about like the Christian like leaders from like way back when, and this kind of makes sense because I'm sure Jaehaerys is probably thinking that this is going to come like at any moment, anytime soon. So we need everything to be stable. We need to have a person always in line just in case. So it makes sense.
I mean, I mean, not really based on the book material, but
Well,
I
this
understand that like
might
we've
be
got a show
unreleased.
narrative. Well, I'm talking about based on Fire and Blood. Like Jaehaerys had there was no like pressing concern for him to name heirs. Okay, like, and it was, he went many years without naming heirs. There was no like I've got to name an heir now.
Right,
Like
but
kind of
this
thing
is
with
what's
him.
so confusing is if because this is coming from George. George had
Hmm.
there's no way Ryan Condal would do anything without George's input, and this is a
Right.
huge lore thing. So I'm sure George had to have signed off on it. What's confusing is why didn't he include this whole Aegon dream prophecy thing in Fire and Blood? Unless he maybe wanted to include it in the Ice and Fire books, and then he's probably changing his mind. It reminds me of that thing you told me about
Yeah.
the World in Ice and Fire history book, how there's nothing
Hmm.
on a shy, because George
Yeah.
probably
There's
wants
nothing.
to come in
There's
and...
nothing on Karth. There's nothing on Slaver's Bay. There's nothing on like Vastoth Rock. Like all the places that like we know characters might actually go. There's nothing. But if you want a fucking background on Lorath, you got your fucking background on Lorath.
Because, like you said, George will probably want to go and write more about Karth and Ashai
Yeah,
in the future
exactly.
books. So I wonder if George hasn't made up his mind about this Aegon dream thing yet. And I guess maybe this
Yeah.
means he
I
has?
don't think he has. I think this is like this is new material. I think in general he had this abstract idea that they had these dreams, and they were perhaps like, fake. They were perhaps real. Who knows? I don't know if he necessarily even knew, but these dreams caused all this madness. We thought the Targaryens were just crazy, but they were driven to craziness by the dreams. I mean, what we have is, in Dunk and Egg, we knew that uh, the Targaryens then were plagued by the dreams, and we knew that like kind of Aerys was crazy for some reason, and so something happened at Summerhall and Arryn Brightflame. We kind of know that something nuts is going on. So extrapolating it all the way back to all the Targaryens, I guess isn't that much of a stretch. It's just that there's no Bloodraven, so the source of it becomes murky.
Telling you, man,
Hmm.
they probably just changed the lore here to where they just get dragon dreams without like an outside source
Oh
giving it to
yeah,
them.
there's a lot. I mean, you could go into. I mean, there's hundreds of little things that I noticed throughout the episode where they've like, oh, they changed this, they changed this, they
Like
changed
what?
this, they changed this. Well, first off, the like how long Viserys has been reigning is completely different.
He
Like
says 10 years.
right, the council. Well, first off, the Council of 101 is completely different. Um, how long he's been reigning, how long he's been ruling is different. Rhaenys and I mean Rhaenyra and Alicent's ages are different. The tourney that they're celebrating is a made up amalgamation of several tourneys that are in Fire and Blood, but there was no heir tourney in Fire and Blood. But they're combining a bunch of things from different tourneys. People being the younger son versus the older son. I think they have Gawain Hightower being the eldest son of Otto rather than the youngest. Missaria, they took away the fact that she was a dancer and they made her into a like the madam, the person
Yeah,
that's actually owning.
that's what I've noticed too. So
Um,
she's essentially going to be Littlefinger, Varys combined, kind of.
yeah, I think that's the parallel they're going for. You're right. Um, but it's a lot of little things like that. I mean, they go on and on, all the little changes. Corlys Velaryon being on the small council, Melos being the maester, the Grand Maester rather than Runketer. All sorts of little things. I mean, it just scene by scene you can go and be like, well, that's different. Oh, a fucking werewood being in the Godswood, Alicent and Rhaenyra being childhood friends, Alicent reading to Viserys rather than reading to Jaehaerys to win him over, like all of these little things. It goes on. And did they say Kristen Cole was Dornish? Did I catch that?
Yes.
That was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what, he would be Sand Dornish? Stony?
Well, the House Cole is definitely from the Stormlands, but they
Yeah,
they
but
made
it's close
him,
enough to Dorne where, a woman and someone...
right. It's like mixing up, say, like an Israeli and a Palestinian would be like completely like switching an Israeli for a Palestinian is completely because they're like a couple miles from each other, right?
Once you put it like that.
Or a Turk and a Greek, like.
I'm actually surprised, even though they switched some stuff around. There's a lot of like fan servicey stuff. If you read the Fire and Blood history book, it's in here. They mention Daemon's wife in the Vale. We get Dark Sister. I even saw a little bit of fan servicey there when Daemon's choosing which one of the knights he wants to joust against. There's like several houses there of note. They're besides Lannister and Tarly. House Bolton's there. A lot of like little the Dragon Keepers make an appearance.
So Gawain, by the way, Gawain Hightower loses to Kristen Cole in the books rather than to Daemon Targaryen, but whatever. Like everything is
it's
just
to show that Daemon's an asshole because he only picked the Hightower boy because he hates Otto.
Right. Or even the fact that like Rhaenys and Corlys are here is such a big thing rather than them being on Driftmark because they were so upset about the Council of 101. Like all these changes are fine. Like I think they work. You don't want to be changing, necessarily locations all over the place. But there's a lot of little things that were changed. And then there's a lot of little things that were kept in as fan service, but man.
My guy brought up one thing that he wished they didn't do. So after Viserys' son Balon dies, Daemon's joke about heir for a day. In the books, is that disputed that he actually said that, or is it like legit confirmed?
Well, everything is kind of in dispute. So that's never confirmed.
But they confirm it here, and I agree with my guy. I kind of wish they didn't confirm it.
Yeah, you're right. Especially like, so you see him at the brothel, and he seems like troubled, right? And then they go to Daemon going before, or then they go to Otto explaining it, and then they flash back to the brothel. So I was like, oh, is this from Otto's perspective? Like, is that what Otto is saying? Because he's the one telling the story. But then they get to Daemon in the throne room and he asks if he said it. And Daemon's just like, yeah, we all mourn in different ways. And he admits it. And you're like, oh, man.
Dude, I just would have I don't like that they did that. I would have liked it if they kept it ambiguous and he just denied it and you just don't really know. Also, Daemon, as they're arguing about him because the heir died, he's sneaking in and listening in on the council.
Listening on a small council.
Right. So he found like Maegor's like hidden passageways and stuff, which this is a nice little thing they're doing here because it's setting up that
blood and cheese.
Yeah, they're setting that up. Yeah, because he knows all these hidden passages somehow. He's figured them out.
They should have shown him like going in or something. Yeah.
By the way, that's the second Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Or, I'm sorry, the first. The second one is, Aegon had a dream. He called it the Song of Ice and Fire. Like, But the first one is, after Viserys' son dies, he says...
the Feast for Crows?
The Feast for Crows. Oh man, I love it.
It's just gonna be like ridiculous. What's with this clash of kings? What?
Must we play a Game of Thrones? What are we doing?
Why this storm of swords must end?
So dude, I hope there's more of this because it's just silly. It's just silly. Like, you don't need to do that, but whatever. Whatever.
Oh my gosh. Incredible.
Oh man. So are you saying you didn't like? Because for me, it wasn't. It borders on good to. But it's very decent. It's not bad. It's a nice 7.5 out of 10. It's a 7.
What do I say? Like, what do I say? It's like you've got. Okay, I would say that like the rest of the episode was very mid for me. It was like, okay, 5, and then 5 at the beginning and a 5 at the end, and then like by itself, the Emma Arryn scene is just like a 15 out of 10. Like, it's just like, oh my God, this is such a fucking incredible scene. Like one of the greatest, like most intense things I've seen put to screen. Like, fuck, that was a good scene. So it's like this like gem, absolute gem in the middle. And so that brings the episode up, I guess. Like, how can I say the episode is bad when or mid or whatever when that scene is in it? I don't know. Like, so it's I've got these mixed feelings, right? Like, it's just like, well, it's kind of boring and it's just kind of going along, and then all of a sudden it's like like I'm just struck over the head with this like insanely good scene that like made me feel so much. And then I was just like, it took everything out of me and I was exhausted for the rest of the episode. I was like, oh gosh. So that's my feeling. Like, it's so good and so mid, like at the same time, right? Like, I don't know. So that's my honest thing. Like, it's just like that one scene is so good that how can I criticize the episode? Because it's in the episode, right? So what am I supposed to say?
It was decent. I mean, it's square in the middle for you. It was decent. Was it a good pilot? It was decent.
I think it was, yeah. I don't think it was well structured to pull in viewers. I don't think it's good enough to save HBO. I don't think it's good enough to launch a multiverse of madness of like 7 different Game of Thrones shows. I don't think it was all of that, but was it some incredible filmmaking like in the middle of the episode, like where I'm just like in awe? Yeah, there's that, but I don't know about the rest.
Well,
the rest is okay.
See, I hate that you say that because I don't want it to be true, but you have a good point because, like, a lot of the times in the episode, like, it's almost as though Ryan Condal is trying to regain the respect and trying to gain somewhat of admiration from book fans before he even tries to pull in casuals. That's what it seems like he's really trying to do.
Yeah. So I remember this comment from Red Letter Media about Ghostbusters Afterlife. And they said, this movie pays more. He's like, it's really weird that this movie pays so much reverence to Ghostbusters when Ghostbusters was so irreverent. And it's like, it was such a genius kind of line. Like Ghostbusters didn't take itself seriously. Like, and this show takes itself very seriously, more seriously than Game of Thrones ever took itself, right? Like, or Ice and Fire like ever took itself. Like, there is like, George is not serious all the time. Like, George puts in like ridiculous stuff all the time. Like, Littlefinger is a character, Varys is a character who are just, they're ridiculous. They're serious, but they're comical, right? And so you're not always in this like gloomy place about like this very like honored material, because you've got a fucking character like Littlefinger just laughing at everything, right? This takes the source material a little too seriously. Like, in fact, I think, believe it or not, the show fucking needed Mushroom. Right?
This is what I was saying earlier to a couple of people. This is why we have like 42 Transformer sequels. It's big, it's dumb, and it's clearly not Shakespeare, but it's entertaining. And it makes fun of itself, and it is fun on some levels. And people like it. The casuals love it. It does whatever. This is what I'm afraid of, that we're not going to have more. There was no
comic relief. There were no laughs. There was no
Was there really comic relief in the pilot of Thrones, though?
I mean, Tyrion getting having sex with those sex workers.
Why is that funny, though? Is that funny because he's a little person, or?
I'm talking about the looks on his face and stuff like that, and like him going in and making those goofy faces to Tommen and Myrcella and stuff like that.
Viserys' quips about the Dothraki, he pisses on Dothraki omens.
Right, or even Robert being like, you've caught, you gotten fat, and Ned looking down and stuff like that. There were some lighthearted moments.
They felt very human.
To balance it out. Yeah. And so, because, people do, there was some of that with like Daemon on the small council, like trying to make jokes. But he's such a dark character that it's also hard to find it lighthearted. So I'm not saying like, yeah, like we went from touching scenes of love and friendship. So you got, touching scene of like friendship between Alicent and Rhaenyra, touching scene of friendship, and then touching scene of love between Viserys and his wife, and touching scene of love between, Viserys and his daughter. And then to dark, creepy shit, right? But we didn't get any humor, and nothing was very fun at any point. Yeah. So I think maybe that's the thing that's missing. Now that I'm talking it through, like there's nothing fun.
Yeah.
Like it needed mushroom. It fucking, like the source material has I'm saying like the source material is not good. I'm not saying like, I know some people are like, oh, I love Fire and Blood. No, the source material is, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. The source material is interesting because it's ambiguous and we don't know what it is and we're reading into it. But there's, it's not great, the source material, but like it pays so much reverence and there's nothing, but the source material even has a humor character. It has Mushroom taking a piss out of everybody and making things fun. It needed Mushroom. Like, it's weird, right? Man, like they should have at least, like if they wanted to not make Mushroom a little person, because everyone would be like, oh, they just threw in another little person character and we already had Tyrion. But, they could have just, made him not a little person, or something.
It's true. They move around a lot of the ages. Why not move around someone's height? Fuck it.
Right. I mean, maybe they would be like, oh, you're taking a job away from a disadvantaged person.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You could make it a different disadvantaged person or something. I don't know. Something. Or just throw in another little person. But whatever the case is, we needed something. We needed some jokes. We needed some fun. And there was nothing really fun here, right? It was very, yeah, now it's good that we're talking about this because I'm piecing together all of my feelings. I like that scene in the middle was so exhausting. And then I realized, like, to the end, there was nothing to bring me back. There was nothing to energize me. There was nothing to make me laugh. Like, it was just dark. It was just dark. And it just got darker. Well, I don't think it can get much darker than Emma Arryn, but like it just stayed dark.
Yeah. A lot of it was set up. A lot of it was like random words thrown around to appease book fans. I think Ryan Condal was so worried about appeasing book fans and appeasing George on some level that he kind of forgot about the casual viewer, which once again is really what he should have aimed for. And I know for a fact that because I'm going to do my review and I'm going to mention this and people are going to go like, what does it matter about the cat? Motherfucker, you're here because you're probably a book fan. That's fine. But casuals come out in force every time Game of Thrones season comes around. They are the bulk. They are the people who are going to make this into the next season. And that's what we need. So...
I remember, like, a lot of, like, when I went to grad school, I remember that, like, football games would happen. And, alums come in for the football games and they can park anywhere and they don't get any tickets. But like anytime that it wasn't game day, like the ticket police were just Nazis on the campus. And everybody was always like, geez, why don't they ticket these alums? And it's like, dude, because the alums are the bread and butter. Like they bring in all of the money, right? They bring in all the donations. You don't want to piss off an alum. Some alum that's donating like $10,000 a year to the university, and you don't want to like piss him off by giving him a $40 ticket, and then he never like fucking donates again. Okay, it's. You forget it, but like the casuals are more important than the super fans. That's what like people forget.
Yeah.
Like there's more of them. They're the ones that keep it on the air. If it was just super fans, it wouldn't exist. Okay. So like you know, you have to watch it and think like, does this appeal to the casual? Because that's the most important thing.
Say what you will
And
about
so
Dave and Dan, like say what you will, but Dave and Dan,
yeah,
like they did a nice job juggling between like fan service because we just went through a
oh
rewatch of the
yeah,
first 3 episodes of season 1 on Patreon, by the way,
mm-hmm.
and YouTube
Yeah.
members, and no, Dave and Dan did a very nice job juggling between fan service and making the story simple enough for you to
Oh
understand.
yeah,
The one issue that people have with the first couple episodes of the first season is that there are so many character names thrown around that even to this
yeah.
day, like I think Obama, who's a fan of the show, still calls Daenerys the Khaleesi, and people still call Tyrion the little guy, and you know no one knows
Yeah, yeah.
Littlefinger's real name or the Hound's real name. So
Right, right. There's a bit of that in this, like when Mysaria's like, "You're Daemon Targaryen, wielder of Dark Sister, like rider of Caraxes, the Blood
yo, who the
Worm."
fuck
You're like, really?
wrote that? Is
there any
did
more?
George? I feel like George wrote some of these lines. They're so fucking lick spittle. Who fucking says that?
Yeah, that's definitely like a book kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like
Lick spittle. Yeah,
who says lick spittle? Like really?
there was definitely a lot of that kind of like book type of
That book jargon.
of book jargon. Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there. Oh man, oh man.
I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. It was decent, but I'm not like clamoring for the next episode. Like, I
That's
gotta
the
know what
thing.
happens next.
Like if you were answer me this. Say you didn't have the channel, okay, and that you were just a rando, and someone gave you the whole season on DVD, okay, and you finished this first episode. Would you be like, gotta watch the second? Like, I gotta watch it now.
I'd probably get up, maybe take a nap, and then come back and watch it later.
Right. Now compare that to any episode in Game of Thrones, like seasons 1 to 3.
Oh no, like
Yeah.
that's the problem too, because that's how they get you. Because the moment Jaime throws Bran out the window, you're like, oh shit, did he just do that?
Boom.
And then the next episode, Bran wakes up, and you're like, oh, they're fucked now. And then episode 3 kind of like tones it down, like Bran doesn't remember it. It ends with Arya doing the training. And then episode 4 ends with Catelyn arresting Tyrion. And you're like, oh fuck, here we go. And then I believe episode 5 ends with Jaime attacking Ned in the streets of King's Landing. You're like, here we go. Yeah. Like it's almost every episode. It's like, oh,
every episode was a cliffhanger except for episode 3. Yeah,
and episode 7, I think, which ends with Joffrey telling Sansa, "Your father needs to confess and say I'm the king, or there's no mercy." But everything else, I did warn you not to trust me. Oh,
yeah,
my God,
the failed coup, and incredible stuff when you do it by comparison. Like here, Daemon flies off on his dragon, and Rhaenyra is heir. Like why should I watch more? You know.
I know we're probably bumming people out, but
no, I know, but like had they switched it up and had like Daemon landing on Dragonstone and him like approaching the dragon, and then ending the episode like that, I think that would have been a little better, because we know that's happening next, right?
Well, a huge part of the whole Daemon thing is like the small council is vehemently against them, but I would have loved it if we had more of a reason why. Because when he's beating the shit out of those people, he makes a very compelling argument. He goes, "Look, we're gonna have high lords and ladies from all over Westeros coming over. You want them to be robbed and raped?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that maybe you were a little too brutal, but that you make a good point."
That's good, yeah.
Other than him being an asshole, why do we need Daemon to like fuck off and go away? Right? So I wish they kind of showed more of his roguish douchebaggery. Because at the end of the day, he's really just fucking whores and, being an asshole. That's really all he's doing. So.
Yeah. Do
you have anything more to say on the episode?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people maybe want conversation about all these little things, and I just, all the little stuff, like the little Easter eggs, I just don't give a shit about. Like, I just
Really?
don't.
Huh? Wow.
Like, I don't. Like, they're all over the place. They're just kind of littered. The whole episode is littered.
Random
But
mentionings of Maegor, random mentionings of
yeah,
Runestone, Dark Sister,
yeah.
like.
This sigil, that sigil, all that.
Mm.
I'm sure. Um, that's all great and all. But maybe I'm just not in the mood to like go around. Like, with Game of Thrones, it just felt more fun. So you like want to go through and see what's going on in the background and stuff like that. But I don't know. Here it's just dour.
Well, what I put in my non-spoiler
Exhausting.
reviews is that like it's tough. It's a weird shadow that will be cast over the show. Unfortunately, it has a difficult path. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. Or in this case, in the eye of a blue-eyed giant, and it's gonna be it's gonna be very difficult for the show to get out of that. And I know what you mean. Like
Yeah.
there's no humor. It's not fun. It's all seriousness. It's all dire. Hopefully episode 2 picks up because look, and let's be honest here, you're a fan of Star Trek, I'm a fan of Star Trek. Star Trek's first season kind of blow. So hopefully this is one of those things where the first couple episodes kind of suck. Like, remember WandaVision? First couple episodes of WandaVision was not that great. But then it picks the fuck up.
Well, yeah, you gotta pull in, yeah. So we'll see. I mean, now you've like talked me into talking it down. I want to stress that like, they achieved a gut punch for me, as intense as the Red Wedding, in that first episode, right? But it's just I don't know. I just don't know about everything else.
There are other tense moments too where by the way, I can't stress this enough, I love the fucking Kingsguard design. And I did like the scene where Daemon finally talks to Viserys on the throne, changing the heirs, but I'm your heir. Your favorite scene?
Yeah, that was intense. Yeah, that was a good scene.
Very tense.
Scene between the brothers.
Great acting. What else did I like? I just watched it.
The creepiness between Otto Hightower and his daughter, him like ordering her in to like talk to Viserys.
I like the small council stuff. I always loved that in the original series. I like it here. I like, but that's just me though. I'm a nerd for like the politics stuff. But no, I thought that was pretty cool.
I think you know who I wanted more of. Rhaenys, the actress that's playing her, gives off a Queen of Thorns vibe of humor and smiles, but like sass and stuff. I wanted more of her. I liked her.
I think the trailer soured me on her because I feel like all she's gonna do is just bitch about not being queen.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
And that's kind of her character, but, kind of like even even during the tourney stuff, she's like, ugh. Now it gets ugly, and she and Corlys are just done with everything. Which hopefully we can like get more of them like doing other stuff other than being annoyed with all the other crap. Because they're just annoyed with everything happening. They don't care. But no, I thought it was very decent. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, it was entertaining for the most part. But there needs to be Ryan Condal. I feel bad for him because he was dealt a really bad hand with the history book. It is dry. There's no like insane compelling stuff. This is for the fans. This is not something a casual could read and become a fan. This was made for fans. As such, this is where we come to. So hopefully he could dish out something that the average person can enjoy.
Yeah, I mean. Look, Ryan Condal, like the fact, given the source material, I mean, this is fucking genius. Given the source material, like, oh my god! Like,
I always love how you rip on the people who are like, "His Fire and Blood is my favorite book." Really?
I don't know. It's just to each their own, but it's just like, come on, like a bunch of characters that don't have character, like a bunch of events where you're not sure what happens, like, it's a vaguely interesting like premise. Like the premise is ambitious, but it's not a good read.
I'm
Like,
gonna
come
find
on.
it very interesting to watch all these random ass YouTubers try to say like this was the greatest pilot ever in the history of time and space, because it wasn't. It wasn't bad. It was decent, but this was just like, yeah. I know
Yeah.
we're probably bumming everybody out, but trust me, at least we're not blowing smoke up its ass. Like, and that's really what you don't want
No,
that.
you know, like, you know, how it's just such a weird mixed bag,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the fact that it has like one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen, and then like one of the most intense scenes I've ever seen, and then you know all this other stuff, and then I'm like, it just needed more humor. It needed something fun. I needed, you know, it needed to be fun, and it was never fun. It was never fun. That's the thing is, you don't want it to be a chore.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. Preston, do you mind if we wrap it up here? Guys,
Sounds
thank you
good.
so much for joining us. Oh, by the way, real quick, would you want to do later down the line a House of the Dragon episode 1 rewatch, or did this did this episode sour you on that?
We'll see. Maybe when I'm not exhausted, because we went into this like I had just finished the episode when we started this,
Really?
so
You're
like
fresh.
you know, yeah. So like it's not like I had time to like process it or get my energy back. It was just like right in like the
It really
exhaustion.
exhausted you?
Like I'm still
Really?
exhausted. Oh yeah.
Damn,
Yeah.
dude. You should have said something. I
Yeah.
would have waited. It's because we got the episode early to the audience. We got the episode early, and I wanted to get this out because.
I mean, there's a bunch of shit though. Like one, like if I mean, you have to be a father and having been in a birthing room with a wife, and like understand all the emotions and everything in a situation
Mhm,
like that. To really like get like how fucking crazy intense that scene is.
of course.
So like I think there's that where you're like I mean you don't have a kid yet, you know, and like you know so you know it's not quite the same. Like for me watching that, you know, it's like pretty intense. But so yeah. Yeah. Ugh, man, oh man.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.